What's going on, you guys? So, Bushido Monologue, episode 14. PBC and Inactivity. That's what the title of this video is going to be called. And for good reason, because a lot of the premier boxing champions are widely inactive. Prior to Gary Russell Jr. fighting Mark Magasayo, he's been off about 2 years. Gary Russell Jr. only had 6 fights, and I believe in 7 years. Right? Criminal for one of the top guys in the sport to be on the quote-unquote right side of the street as well. But see, guys like to use Al Heyman for when certain things good happen. They say, oh, thank Al Heyman. Praise Al Heyman. And this is coming from the fans too. But then when something bad happens, they like to eject Al Heyman's name from the equation and put it all on the fighter. So the fighter's out there to defend for himself. I don't necessarily like that. I don't like that. But Gary Russell Jr. has been inactive. Going into the fight, me personally, I felt that the fix was already in. Why would Gary Russell Jr. come out and disclose an injury before a fight? What fighter really does that? No fighter really does that. You don't want your opponents to know you're injured. But maybe that was Gary Russell Jr.'s way of letting people know, like, look, man, I really didn't want to take this fight. I wanted to kind of push it back a little bit, but circumstances made me take this fight. I mean, I need the money. I haven't been fighting for a while. My father was supposed to go to surgery, but yeah, he had to show up to this fight. Not to mention the powers that be telling me that if I don't take this fight on this so-and-so date, well, I may not be able to fight again for a whole nother year. So Gary Russell Jr. likely was probably in a bad situation going into this Mark Magasayo fight, not to mention the injury. I'm not sitting on here making excuses from Gary. I'm just talking some real shit. And if you don't like it, hit the dislike button and leave the fucking channel. Because the fix was in for Gary Russell Jr. and they was glad to get him out the way. He was PBC's rebel. He was the one that was speaking his mind on Floyd Mayweather and everything else that's going on. He was the guy doing that. They didn't like that shit. And they was waiting for them. They was waiting for the perfect opportunity to get rid of him. He was pressing Tank. He was doing all types of things going against the grain over there. He was being a rebel. They don't want that. They got rid of him. Got him out the way. They tried to mess with the scales to make him lose the belt on the scales. Right? Yeah, this is all shit that they've been doing. Gary Russell Jr. came in at half a pound over. Gary Russell Jr. always in the gym. Gary Russell Jr. never missed his weight. Come to find out, the scale wasn't calibrated right. Come to find out, Sean Gibbons was in the mix. And then if you heard anything about Sean Gibbons, he's known to kind of be fucking with the scales. This is what they say allegedly. It's all alleged. If you look at his history back when he was back in the day, he was a scale master. A lot of shady shit if you go do your homework. A lot of shady shit. A lot of shady shit. Fixed fights. A lot of shady shit. But guess what? This guy was owed a favor because he gave Al Heyman and Manny Pacquiao. And this going into the Rolando Romero situation. How did Rolando Romero get pulled out of that fight? Why did Rolando Romero get it? People don't ever ask these questions. It was just too convenient. Out of nowhere, some strange girl come out here and accuse this kid of sexual assault, right? And of course, he's been proven innocent now. After that fight happened and everything, now everything has been cleared. It's almost like it was a game to get him out the way because somebody else was owed a favor. So you owe me a favor, and Isaac Cruz needs a shot. So find a way to get this Rolly kid out the way. I don't care how you do it, just do it. They found a way to get him out the way, but now Rolly's about to get his shot now. But guess what? Boxing fans don't care about Rolly enough to really look too deep into it. But this could possibly be a reality of these situations. Could be the reality, man. Get him about the way. Boxing is a dirty sport. We all know this shit. But boxing fans don't want to act like it's dirty when it fits their agenda or fits their motives. Oh, boxing is a clean sport. Yeah, they wouldn't do nothing like that. Come on, man. Don't put nothing past none of these people. It's the Wild Wild West. Boxing's like the Wild Wild West. It's not structured like any other sport. You see how they do these ranking systems? Guys that you never heard of, that was built in a lab somewhere, is ranked in the top 10. How? Who did he fight? What did he do? What country is he even from? Come on, man. But one thing I noticed too about PBC is that they're not as black as I once thought. Yeah, that's right. They're not as black as I once thought. You look at the cars they've been putting up. What black fighters headlining these cars recently? None. When was the last time we seen a black fighters headlining a card on PBC? I want to say, was it the Charlo Harrison 2? Or was it the... And I'm talking about prominent guys that's, or was it Spence and Porter? Can't remember. But I don't think we gonna see any of that anytime soon anyway. Keith Thurman versus Barrios. We haven't seen Keith Thurman in a long time. That goes back to the inactivity thing. 3 years since we seen Keith Thurman. Right? And back when he was active, it was free TV free boxing for everybody on TV. He's fighting another champion in a unification fight on free TV. Fast forward 5 years later, now he's fighting a guy coming off loss. They both coming off losses. Inactivity. Keith Thurman coming off 3 years and a loss. And now, but guess what? We got to charge you for this one, for $75 to fight a guy named Mario Barrios that really nobody heard of, who's also coming off a loss against a much smaller man than Gervonta Tank Davis. In a new weight class he never fought it yet. But we go charge y'all $75 for that. Not to mention the guy that's headlining the co-main event is also coming off a loss to this same Gervonta Tank Davis. And that was the last time we seen him as well. All these inactive fighters. And early on, I remember PBC is, they got flexibility to do what they want. Yeah, they got too much fucking flexibility. Because while it may be them being on the shelf for other reasons like scheduling and finances, it could also be because these dudes turning down fights and Al Heyman ain't going to make them do nothing they don't want to do. So guess what? Floyd Mayweather got to carry the weight. Floyd Mayweather got to pick up the slack and bring some money in for the company by fighting in expedition fights on helipads and shit against kids named Money Kicks. Against YouTuber kids, rich YouTuber kids, Sultan's sons and shit. Billionaires' kids and shit. For what? You see Floyd doing infomercials. For what? Of course, he's probably making a shit ton of money to do them, man. Hey, I'm not knocking it, but for what? Right? Them commercials be looking weird as hell, too. It don't even look real. Like, it just don't even feel real. I be cracking up when I see him. He probably getting paid a nice penny, too, just to make an appearance. But what's really going on over there, right? Why are you hearing about Adrian Broner flirting with the idea? Once again, Adrian Broner's been another rebel over there, but he's been taking losses too, so, But why Adrian Broner coming out with these text messages and just giving people hints, right? Because it seems like they can't really just speak freely on Al Heyman. So they kind of give you little hints. Other guys are a little bit more outspoken than others about it. But Adrian Broner talking about he wants his money from the Pacquiao fight and, they giving me allowances and shit. And, and maybe it's so Adrian Broner won't go broke, right? Maybe it's so AB won't go fucking broke. So Al Heyman kind of, holding his money for him. But these guys been complaining, man. And I remember years ago, Vanez Monterosian came out and complained. I forgot exactly what it was about. I believe it was about him not having fights. Then next thing we know, you know what? Guess what happened? A desperate, hungry Vanez Monterosian went up in there, coming off the couch, and fought a Golovkin. Gave hints that he damn near threw the fight. Just went in there for the check. Damn near gave you that hint. And then later on, he comes out and tries to apologize to Al Heyman. And tries to get back, but that bridge was already burnt. But he came out and dropped some bombs on him. But we've seen now that these guys can't do that, and we saw what happens when you do that, and we seen what happens when you even say something about Floyd. You better hope you knock out your next opponent. You better not make sure this dude. You better hope you separate yourself from your opponent. Otherwise, you could see yourself on the receiving end of an L. You could see yourself on another end of an L. That's just what it be looking like, right? I just don't think PBC is as black as people once thought. Not as black as I thought. It's not. It's not. How did Mark Magasayo get the decision over Gary Russell Jr.? Did he really do enough to beat the champion? Did he really? I mean, this guy was a one-armed fighter. By all rights, Gary Russell Jr. should have been knocked out. Not to mention he was a smaller man coming off a 2-year layoff. But he somehow still magically did enough to beat the champion. Did Tony Harrison do enough to beat the champion? Right? I felt Tony Harrison may have deserved to get that nod, right? He put in some good work in that fight. But was it enough to actually beat the champion? Guess what Jermell Charlo was doing prior to that fight? Talking shit about Floyd and all that. And guess what? They'll teach you a lesson. They'll humble you real fucking fast over there by giving you a fucking L. And then you'll get back in line. Right? Then you get your ass back in line. But yeah, man, shit ain't looking too good over there. The activity for the fighters is the main thing. I think that's the number one way to hurt a fighter is inactivity. Because then they're not staying sharp. They're not staying in the gym. They're not staying motivated. They're not making no money. And they're losing their hunger. Not to mention, when you start to enter your 30s, you start to wind down anyway. You're not as aggressive, as amped up as you were in your 20s. So you got a lot of fighters who hunger got bought away early on. And now they've been sitting on the shelf, laying up under silk sheets. And now they not killers no more. They don't want to give us the best matchups they can give us. They come out with excuses as to why those fights can't be made. Right? They come out with excuses as to why those fights can't be made. Not to mention these guys are just crazy inactive. That's the main thing for me. Christopher Colbert. We should be hearing about him all the time. Colorful personality, exciting style. He's starting to really put these dudes down. You got him in there fighting the same type of guys. You're not even trying to attach his name to tanks for clout or doing anything, bro. It's just a whole bunch of motherfuckers over there doing shit. That's what it looks like. Yeah, I know the PBC fanboys and the Al Heyman fans ain't gonna like this video, and that's cool. You ain't supposed to like it. He said, well, why you ain't talking about Bob and Top Rank? I do talk about them, but we talking about these dudes. To be honest with you, I don't really give a fuck about Bob and Eddie Hearn and all those guys. I really don't care. I care about what these black guys are doing. And I don't think they're doing right by the people that's over there that look like them. I don't. Why are you putting these dudes on pay-per-view when you know people ain't buying pay-per-views, when you know people still in fights? So why are you putting them on pay-per-view if you know these facts? It doesn't make sense. Why would you put Keith Thurman Barrios on pay-per-view when you know nobody, if you feel people ain't even go buy Spence Crawford? So why would you put Thurman Barrios on pay-per-view then? Spence Ugas, how could you possibly sell that to us? If you don't even want to try to give us Crawford Spence, right? I think PBC needs to make some smart moves. I think one of them is to get Terrence Crawford over there. Another one would be to not give all your fucking money to Canelo Alvarez. That's another one. I think boxing fans, that's why I like doing these monologues too. But when I look at the Jamal Charlo situation with Canelo Alvarez and how long he's been off, it's a fight we all want to see. Absolutely. Absolutely. But why now all of a sudden? Why now? Why now after Jamal Charlo only fought one time in 20 months? That's almost 2 years. One fight in 2 years almost for a guy in his 30s in his prime. Why these guys sitting out for 2 years? Is it by choice, or is it because they just don't got the money to front the bill? Right? What's the real reason? Why hasn't Spence and Ugas been announced yet? It's not the fight fans necessarily want to see, but it is a good fight. It is a good fight. It's a unification fight. You know, we already know we ain't getting a Crawford fight now, so we might as well go on to that one. Hey, why we ain't getting that one yet? What happened? What's going on? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, the inactivity thing, man. A lot of those dudes over there, Keith Thurman. When last time we seen him? His loss against Pacquiao 3 years ago. Gary Russell Jr. fought only 6 times in 7 years. Errol Spence Jr. A lot of spots of inactivity. Whether it was due to, whatever reason. It's a lot of inactivity over there. The only guy that I could say whose name is notable that's been pretty active is Yordenis Ugas. So maybe he's one of the few guys over there that's not turning down fights behind the scenes. Because we can't put all the blame on Al Heyman now. These guys over there got a lot of flexibility, it seems like. Like, they can fight who they want to fight and not fight when they don't want to fight. Keith Thurman could have fought in 2021, but guess what? He chose to sit out. Now he regrets not fighting in 2021 because he's been out for 3 years now. You don't really see, and the thing is, you don't really see any of that from Top Rank or Matchroom. Eddie Hearn's guys be fighting. Boo Andre been getting hella work. Say what you want about his opposition. He can't get the big names to fight him. But guess what? He's been more active than he ever been. Boo Andre went from one of the least active fighters to probably one of the most active. He's more active than the guys on PBC. He's fighting at least 2 or 3 times a year now. He's been getting some consistent work. Right? But it seems like guys on the PBC side, man, a lot of them. Who's fighting 3 times a year on PBC? Who's fighting 2 times a year on PBC? Then they like to say, oh, well, that's because they make it. Man, nah, bro. I don't believe that. I think this is why a lot of guys don't sign with PBC, and we used to scratch our heads as why he ain't going over there with the brothers. Well, a lot of them dudes probably know what's really going on. Like, look, they want some certainty. They want to know when they have a fight coming up. When do they got to prepare? Do they got these dates? Are they going to get a title shot? Maybe it's just a lot of uncertainty over there. And a lot of these guys want to know what they're getting themselves into or knowing what's to come rather than them just doing shit. Right? Because I think that's the problem with when a lot of black guys don't sign with PBC. That's probably why, because they want some certainty. They want to know when they got fights coming up so they can get prepared, so they can get these tickets sold and all that. Because it seems like, like everything just happens so suddenly with PBC sometimes. I think last year may have been the last good year for them, but we'll see, man. The year just started. I hope they can get things back rolling. I hope we can see a lot of these fights we want to see. But I don't think so, man. I think they're starting to go a different direction. If you look at the cards, I mean, they say PBC is for the black fighters and all that, but I fail to believe otherwise. I mean, no, I believe otherwise. I don't fail to believe. No, I believe otherwise. I absolutely believe otherwise. Look at the cards. Keith Thurman is the only black fighter on the card that's coming up. I can't even remember the last one. Wasn't Tank Davis the only black fighter on that card against Isaac Cruz? You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, it's not, that's not, all that shit is over with. That's why I never was out here on the front lines doing all that protecting. Nah, man, because I don't know what these dudes' real agendas are. I don't really know who Al Heyman is for me to, stand on the front lines to defend him, because not everybody that looks like you is for you. That's just the reality. I don't know who this dude is or what he's about. All I know is that a lot of fighters seem to be, early on, a lot of fighters was praising him. He's a music guy. That's all I know. A lot of fighters praise him, but then there's other guys that may say little things, but that's all they say is a little bit. It seems like they got a strong gag order on them that they can't say nothing. And you hear about these things, that they have a disclosure thing, a disclaimer of disclosure, that way they can't speak bad about them or something like that. All right? So there's a lot of shit you hear. Me personally, I just want to see the best fight the best. And unfortunately, in the sport of boxing, all the top fighters are spread out amongst these 3 promotional companies. It seems like the other two are willing to work with each other. The Top Ranks and the DAZNs and ES, all that. It seems like they're all willing to work with each other when that time comes. But for Premier Boxing Champions, they still doing their own thing. But I think that they need help. I think that boxing all needs to work together. I don't think PBC is doing too good right now. And if they need to work with Top Rank or DAZN or Matchroom to make some of these fights happen and to get things back rolling, then do it. Don't let your personal fuck up your business. Because when I look over there at Matchroom, yeah, they don't be putting up the fights that I really care for. I don't care for a lot of those fights over there. I really don't. I mean, they be good. They be action-packed fights, shit like that. But it's not But guess what? Those guys are active. They're active at least 2 times a year. Right? At least those guys are active. You look over there on Top Rank, how many times you seen Big Baby Anderson last year? Quite a bit. How many times you seen Edgar Berlanga and all these dudes, as long as they're healthy? You see them. You see these guys. My OG know who Big Baby is. He's a young prospect. She know who he is. Why? Because she's been seeing him on TV. But when you go look over there on PBC, everybody you used to see, you just don't see him no more. Like, subscribe, holla at your boy. Peace out.